Well, to get us up to speed on the latest reaction from China, Adam Hancock joins me now live from Singapore. Adam, tell us more about what China is saying about the U.S. downing of its balloon.
Well, perhaps unsurprisingly, Beijing are protesting against this decision by the US to shoot down this balloon. In a statement they've released, they said they strongly oppose the decision. They've described it as an overreaction, and they've pointed to the fact that they have repeatedly claimed that this was, in China's words, a civilian aircraft. It was only used for weather monitoring, and somehow it had been blown so far off course that it had ended up over the US. And in a number of the statements that China have made about this, they have called for calm, they've called for cool heads in dealing with it, but now they're pointing to the fact that the US have used aggression, they've gone out and shot this thing down, and therefore saying that they haven't followed what the instructions that they were trying to give to the US. And it's been interesting to watch how Beijing have played this so far. Initially, when they first admitted that this balloon did belong to China, they were very apologetic. It was quite out of character, really, in terms of these statements. They almost apologized to the US, really. But since then, their tone has shifted a little bit. They've been more forthcoming in their aggression in their statements. They're blaming media and politicians in the US for trying to twist this and blame China. And obviously, today, they've come out quite strongly in reaction to what has happened. So it will be interesting now that the balloon has been shot down to see how they approach this in the coming days.
Yeah, the U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken was coincidentally due to head to Beijing this next week, but of course has, as we know, postponed or maybe even canceled that trip now. So what does this all mean for U.S.-China relations after this incident?
Yeah, well, as you said, ironically, he was actually due to land in Beijing today at the start of that high-profile trip. And I think what this means is, yet again, we're in a situation where the relationship is very fractured and it's very tense, and anything at the moment seems to blow it off course. Obviously, this whole balloon incident has meant that that trip by Secretary of State Blinken has been cancelled. And that trip was really seen as another step on the ladder of kind of repairing relationships, which all started with that meeting between President Xi and President Biden at the G20 in Bali. That was where they planned for this first visit to take place by Secretary of State Blinken. But yet again, we've got this situation where both sides having a war of words, a big diplomatic spat, and they can't seem to get away from this at the moment. We weren't expecting to see many breakthroughs or developments from this trip by Antony Blinken, but it was going to be symbolic and showing that China were, again, open to the world, open to engaging with the US, trying to move away from zero COVID as they try to rebuild their economy. But obviously now the trip has been cancelled. The US have left the door open, interestingly, to this trip taking place at a later date, but they said that would be when conditions allow. And given the renewal of tensions and the new crisis that took place over the last few days, it's hard to see exactly when that situation would take place. So yet again, people aren't getting down for face-to-face talks. They're having a dispute between both foreign ministries, and things are getting messy between both sides again.
Adam, do you know anything about China's practice about using spy balloons? I know China's not admitting that this was a surveillance aircraft, of course, calling it a weather balloon. But do you know if this is something that is common for China to do?
Well, we haven't seen any incidents like this for a while now. There have been historical incidents of Chinese spy balloons, or weather balloons as they would call them, flying into US airspace. But it seems to be a relatively new tactic. And it's interesting that there was talk of another balloon being used over Latin America as well. So potentially this is a new target now that China will use going forward, if it is indeed a spy balloon. We don't know for certain yet. They're obviously claiming it was a weather balloon. Experts are saying that you can actually get a surprising amount of data from using these things. It obviously seems almost quite comical sending across a balloon in the age of technology and stealth planes. But yeah, it's an interesting maneuver, whatever this thing is, and it will be interesting to see if we hear any more about the one that was allegedly sighted over Latin America.
All right, Adam Hancock in Singapore. Adam, thank you.